What's up, good people? Good people, good people. I told y'all it's that time. It's that time. We're going Facebook Live tonight, and I am going to be joined in just a couple of minutes, hopefully, by one of my business associates. And we're coming to you tonight, like we've been talking about earlier. We had a conversation. She and I had a conversation. About doing this because of a couple of things that I happened to see, and I brought it up to her. And she is someone that I respect so much in business and branding, but just in being an advocate for people. And making our communities better, making us better as business owners, as entrepreneurs, and just as individuals. So we had a conversation, and I thought that it would be great for she and I to come together. And we've done this before, but we thought it would be a great idea to do this under a different perspective, and just to come to you all to give you some knowledge, some information, and resources that you're not going to hear everywhere else. She is someone that I believe just has a wealth of knowledge and is not afraid to share it like everyone else, like a lot of other folks that you will see out there. So I'm going to see if I can get her on, because I see she's here. I see she's here, so I'm going to try and find her. See if I can find you. I see you. I see it on there, but I want to invite you in. I got to figure out how to invite you in. It has you blacked out, Letonya, so I don't know if I can invite you or if you can. Oh, there you go. There you go. I see you. I see you. All right, let's see if this works. All right, the invitation, Letonya. So hopefully you'll get it, and then we can get the get to going and moving and grooving. She is she is the busiest working woman in the business arena, branding arena, attorney arena, all of those things. Every time I talk to her, she is on the go. So, so I'm thankful, grateful that she is hopefully able to join me tonight, and we're just gonna chop it up. We're gonna have a conversation, and we want you all to join in the conversation. If y'all want to certainly put something in the chat area, certainly please do that so that we can. If you have any additional questions and conversations like that, then we certainly want you to join us. So I'm trying to see. Hopefully, Tanya, did you get the Tanya? Did you get the Tanya? Did you get the if you saw it or not? Yeah, I sent the invite. See if you see it. Let me know if it didn't go through. We may have to try it again so that we can do it, because I sent it said that it added you or wanted to add you. So let's see if that works. And we will get you on. We're going to get you on. We're going to get you on. Oh, let me see it. Let me see it this way. I might have did the wrong one. Yeah. All right, let me try it again. All right, I just tried it again to see if you got the invite. There we go. There she is. Look at it. And even
Okay.
got the shades on too. Got the
Oh
gladiator
my
shades
gosh.
on.
I'm so sorry. I was supposed to be at my destination over an hour ago. There was like a traffic jam and a wreck, and I was like, oh my God, but I didn't want to miss this. So I just pulled over at like this Waffle House because this is such a very important discussion, and thank you so much for inviting me on to your platform.
Oh, absolutely. You know it. You and I talk about this all the time, and I know that you are a strong, strong, strong advocate for our community and us knowing the things that we need to know and being able to not just know the things that we need to know, but actually doing something with it. You know, because having knowledge does you no good if you don't do anything with it. You know, so we can give out all of the knowledge, all the information that we want to, but if people don't adhere to it, if people don't take that knowledge and make them not only just make themselves better, but to make them the other people around them and the community better. You know, it's just people are wasting. You know, people are wasting their time, and we're not about wasting our time. So, you know, so I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule because, like I was mentioning a few minutes ago, you are always on the move. So you are always on the move. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join me. So because like I said, I don't take people's time lightly because it's the one thing. It's our most valuable asset, and it's the one thing we can't get back no matter what. You know. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So cool.
It's a
So
it's a little bit choppy, but I can hear you.
oh, okay, okay, okay. Is it raining where you are? Because we just had a storm, like a real bad storm up here. So I don't know if it's
No,
down there.
it was raining at home, but not
Oh,
where I am right now. It's very sunny.
oh, okay, got you. Cool. So I mean, we'll tell everybody just a little bit about the conversation that we had that prompted us to come and want to do this live. And I'll tell everybody. I'll start off everybody. And I happen to think about there were two movies documentaries that came along that really touched me and moved me, and I know it did the same for you. And two of those movies were the documentary, which was the Central Park Five, or now the Exonerated Five, and then the movie The Founder. Those were two movies. When the Exonerated Five came out, it was such a compelling story, and there are many of us that remember back when this actually took place and everything like that. And But to now see how they've all the documentary kind of brought back everything that happened, and it kind of went a little bit more in depth into the story behind everything that happened with them and everything like that. And to now see them kind of being given the accolades, not to say accolades, but just the love that they need, and that I felt like that they missed out on because of their lives being their young adult lives being taken away from them, doing the years in prison that each of them did and everything like that, and then the amount of just the years, and then even after prison. And that was one of the things that you and I will get into, after their life after prison, coming out and and trying to get along and move along with their life after, which was difficult in and of itself. And then boom, here comes this documentary, because there have been several other documentaries that were done, but when Ava DuVernay did the documentary that she did, it just it went, I think, even deeper than some of the other ones that may have been out there, and has just catapulted this story to an even deeper level in this day and time, as you can only imagine. And I read today, Ava DuVernay got nominated for 16 Emmys for that for the story. So I was like, wow. So it's something that has touched a whole lot of people and has done a whole lot of things. So I just thought that got me to thinking, looking at their story, about how we as a community don't really know sometimes all of our rights, and how to handle certain situations, and especially when it comes to dealing with the authority, dealing with the police, dealing with authorities, and like that, things like that. These young men, of course, were under the age of 18. So, of course, they didn't know all of the things that they could know. The only thing that they knew was kind of what they were trying to do, which was basically get home. And even their parents not knowing everything that they needed to know. And I wanted to have that discussion with you of the importance of having those discussions, because you and I talked about that, those dinner table discussions that we don't have in our communities, and what those conversations need to look like and sound like. So what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's so much, right? There's so much in so little time. And I think
I
that
know.
one of the things that we have to understand is that in that particular situation, we have to think about the times, we have to think about the time frame. And oftentimes we don't know as regular citizens what the police can and can't do, right? We
Right.
just kind of go off of those things. The root of a lot of this, I believe, comes down to, as parents, we just want our boys to get home safe, right? We just want you to make it home. And so we tend to tell them, well, you just need to comply,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we're thinking
Mm-hmm.
about that instance of life and death. Well, I think we've seen in recent times complying gets you killed, right?
Right.
And so at the
Right.
end of the day, when you are in a situation like these young children, because they were children at the time
Mm-hmm.
that these children were in, we really have to understand that, that difference, like you and I talked about, people think when your rights are read, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It doesn't say if you're guilty,
Right.
right? If you just think about, look at that, read
Mm.
it, see what it says, right?
Yeah, you
It
just made a
says
good point. Right.
whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. It doesn't say if the evidence support it. It doesn't say some of those things. So you got to think about that. The other thing too is the right to counsel, right?
Mm.
Most people think that the right to remain silent and the right to counsel is the exact same thing. It is not, right? So just a quick breakdown is when you invoke your right to remain silent, right? The police can keep coming back to you and say, well, you want to talk now? You want to talk now? You've been in here 20 minutes, 30 minutes, two
Mm.
hours. You want to talk
Wow.
now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you talk, right, it can and will be used against you. Now, here's the difference. When you ask for a lawyer, all interviews must stop until you are given the opportunity to speak to a lawyer. Why is that important? Because
Mm.
now, when they give you your rights, they ask you if you want to waive it. You say yes. They ask you to sign the waiver. And remember what I just said. The
Mm.
waiver is waiving your right now to counsel. When you say, I want a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
all bets are off, right? You cannot come back. You must give me an opportunity to seek and connect with counsel. You can ask, am I being detained?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. Am I under arrest?
Right.
Because
Right.
they
Right.
can detain you, certainly,
Uh-huh.
but if you're not under arrest, you can ask, am I under arrest? Well, not yet. Am I going to be under arrest?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you going to arrest me now? Well, I'm invoking my right to counsel. See, at that point, if they're not charging you,
Mm-hmm.
you should be let go.
Right.
It's
And
as
see.
simple as that. You should be
Right.
let go.
Right. And that's something I think that we don't understand. And let me do this. I will preface this that now Letonya is not just talking out the side of her neck, y'all. So I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let her give y'all a little bit of her background and why she's saying what she's saying and understands what she is saying and how important it is, the verbiage and what we have to understand, what we can do, what we can't do, what the police can do, what they can't do, and like you said, the importance of the waiving of our rights, the asking, am I being detained versus am I under arrest, and the difference in that. So I'm gonna let you tell them a little bit about you for those that may not know who you are, Letonya, tell them just a little bit about you, what you do, and your background, and everything like that, and then you can go into more into, like you were saying, those differences and what should happen if we get detained by the police, or we happen to have to go down to the to the police station and everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm an attorney. I'm licensed in Alabama. I have to put this disclaimer out there, right, to
Absolutely.
set to satisfy the bar. So nothing that I say constitutes legal advice, right? It is merely information. If you find yourself in a legal type of position where your rights may be impacted, you certainly want to contact local counsel that is licensed in your state. So I don't want to get Leroy in trouble. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Absolutely, we ain't trying to have those kind of problems.
Right. But we are talking about constitutional issues. I have a background in civil rights, in the areas of housing, employment, and things of that nature. And so, I do understand this. I guess I am credentialed, in this area, but it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. Like I shared with you. I mean, I had a situation even with a family member that was in a situation, and when the situation happened, I was able to advise them, over the phone, like, this is what you do. Long story short, the invoking your right to a lawyer in this particular case that I'm talking about, their particular case, was the difference between them going home with a dismissal, right? An administrative dismissal, meaning it didn't even go to trial. Judge just said, okay, bam, we dismissed the case, right? And having to be in a situation where they gave a statement against their own interest, meaning if that person would have given a statement to the police, that statement would have been used against them, and that would have been probably enough evidence for a conviction. And we're talking about a charge that was a Class A felony, that was, punishable by 20 years in prison for somebody that's in their 20s.
Wow.
Which is, of course, very similar to what has happened with these particular 5 young children, that were convicted as adults for a crime they didn't commit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and talk a little bit, I guess, if you can expound a little bit on about what you talked about your family member, but I guess with understanding about being let go, when you talk about, them not being able to detain you if you are not under arrest. You can literally get up, and you should be able to literally be able to get up and walk out. Versus actually still sitting there, because part of I guess in the documentary, they had kept the young boys there for, I think it was over 48 hours or something like that, and didn't let them have anything to drink or eat or anything like that. Is that something that authorities can do? Is that something that they can do?
Yeah, first of all, that's something that they can do. And then another tactic is they will give you something to eat or drink, because they want you to throw that can away, right? So that they can get your so that they can get your DNA.
Yeah,
I mean, quite frankly, don't eat or drink nothing when you're there, right? If you blow your nose, put the tissue in your pocket, right? I mean, I'm just being honest, because see, trash means you don't have what's called an expectation of privacy in a certain thing. I know people. Let me tell you, don't eat nothing. Don't drink anything. If it's an issue, listen, don't touch nothing. Now, I mean, think about it. We don't think about it in our normal everyday life. But let's take something as simple as a soda can, right? You got your fingerprints.
Right.
You got your DNA on something as simple as picking up something to drink, right? Now, I'm not telling people how to avoid anything. I'm just telling you what your rights are.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you got to understand that they're looking to make a case and you want to go home. And so how do you do that? Of course, everybody wants something to eat or drink if you've been there for that long. Right. But if you don't know, okay, I want to talk to my lawyer. Right. I don't have anything to say. I'm not answering any questions. I want counsel. I'm invoking my right to counsel. Everything should stop at that point. Now, they can still arrest you now, It doesn't mean that they can't arrest you. They
Right.
can charge you, they can arrest you, right? And then you still get that opportunity to, get your phone call counsel and things like that. The important thing is that they don't have any evidence against you that you've given them. It's their job to prove the charge. It's their job to prove the case. And so you want to make sure that they're the ones that's doing it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's one of the things that we said, that we don't help them to prove their case against you or anything. Something that I want to pick up on that you said that was important a little while ago, that you said about the what was it? I'm gonna have to. I may have to come back to it, but you mentioned something that I wanted to pick up on. But talk about being compliant. We're talking about, because people want to go home. They want you, or the only thing, since all you want to do is go home, and that they want you to, and that they will detain you or try and keep you. The importance of not just complying just to comply, because you did mention anything that you say and write can be used against you. So talk a little bit about that, because even if you do a statement, if they give you a statement that says, that you agree to a statement or write a statement, and then you say, they tell you, well, all you got to do is sign this statement and go home. So even if you didn't do it, that can be used against you, and how that how that weighs, kind of how that may weigh if you were to even go into a court of law.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Listen, anything, a verbal statement, a written statement. That's why when people give a verbal statement, right, a lot of times they're videos, or they will write it down, or have you write it down and have you to sign it, right? That's still technically a statement. And not technically, it's a statement. So that's why you want very early on to invoke your right to counsel, because that stops everything. They can't seek a statement after that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And here's the other thing that I want you guys to know. Any waiver can always be revoked, right? They make you think, well, you've already waived your right to remain silent. You've already waived your right to counsel. Well, I'm revoking that waiver and I'm putting it in now. You always have that constitutional right.
And that's important.
Always.
Yeah.
Right? Even when you waive it, you can come back and say that you're revoking it. And I ain't saying nothing else. My suggestion, I can't say advice, but my suggestion to you is that from the jump, you just go ahead and invoke your right to counsel, and that way you don't have this problem.
Absolutely. Now talk about when you invoke your right to counsel, and especially if you're underage. Can the police detain an underage person, an underage child, without their parent being there? Can they talk to them without their parent being there?
It really depends from state to state. But for the most part, and in general, there is supposed to be a parent or guardian, someone that's responsible for that child, present.
Okay.
And the other thing too is understand that the rights are yours, right? Which means that you cannot waive another person's right. So that's why they want that. That's why they want that parent there, because you got to think, when you are underage, you are not legally, you can't legally be held to a contract, which is what a waiver is. That's a contract.
Okay.
Right. And so you want to have that parent or guardian or that person responsible for them there, because it says, well, this is the person that's responsible for them. And so they are there signing along with them to make this a legal binding waiver.
So I mean, and folks, please understand that if you have a son, even if you have a daughter that happens to get into a situation like this, the importance of you talking to your child so that they know what they need to do. Whether it's get me on the phone, call me before you do anything else, invoke your rights, to say, I want my parent. Now, can you say that you want your parents there before you say, can a child say that they want their parent, they want their parents there, and the and the officers have to stop any kind of, talking or interrogation at that point as well. Does that work the same as invoking your right to counsel?
It doesn't necessarily work the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's in all parties' best interest for the parents or guardians to be present.
Right, 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 right.
Because it's that gray area of can I bind this child to something when there wasn't a guardian present?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that may present an evidentiary problem for the police, which is why oftentimes you see that they're going to have a parent there before they go hard.
Mm, But see, watching the movie, the When They See Us, they didn't do that. They had already pretty much interrogated those kids before their parents got there, and really there was only one parent that got in and took her child home. She was like, y'all can't do nothing, and took her son home. She was like, we going home. And it stopped there. So I mean, and like I said, I don't know all of the legalities with that and everything like that. How I guess police were able to do what they did prior to any of the other parents, because they had done some tactics and stuff like that. And we talked a little bit about it too, about what the police can and can't do. Because I was watching another attorney on the Breakfast Club, and I think I mentioned this to you, and she had broke down just like you were a lot of things, but she was saying the tactics that the police use, those are all things that, I mean, they can pretty much they have a lot of leeway in what they can do in order to be able to prove that, kind of get a confession out of you, and be able to do the things that they do to us. And so I think that people have to understand, I guess, what limits do the police have or boundaries, I should say. That might be a better
Well,
phrase. What
here's
boundaries do they
the
have?
thing. Here's the thing. We can talk about what boundaries they should have, right? Just because they do it doesn't mean that is legal, right? It
Right,
doesn't
true too.
mean that they really are supposed to do that.
Right.
And that's why a lot of the things that now that you have people that are analyzing what happened back in, what was that, 1980 something,
89. Mm-hmm.
89.
Yeah.
So you have people that are now talking about if this happened today,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're talking about today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of constitutional cases that have come out since then that said the police pretty much can tell you whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They can say whatever. They can lie. They can tell you they got your
Right.
DNA.
Right.
They can do all of that. But that's why I'm saying from the very beginning, once you went, the one thing that has been steadfast for many, many years is
Mm-hmm.
that right to counsel,
Got you. Mm-hmm.
right? It's that right to counsel. And so once you put that out there, right, you don't have to worry about all this other stuff. You don't have to worry about being coerced. Now they're going to say, well, what? I mean, you want a lawyer? Innocent people don't ask for a lawyer.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I ain't guilty, but I'm asking for a
For a
lawyer,
lawyer.
right? So you got to make sure that you don't really fall for the okie doke, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, innocent, it's up to you. Like some people say, well, look, I'm just going to spit in this cup, let them swab. I know my DNA doesn't match. You can certainly do that.
But
But understand, your DNA may not match, but if they find a tape that you was riding around with Leroy earlier that day,
they.
and Leroy's DNA match, you're going to be roped in like the one dude that showed up with his friend.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is you got to always think of how can I be roped in? That's just like, think about it. There are cases where somebody did not do the crime,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but they get charged with the exact same thing because they was with the person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. 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 And I'm gonna give you a quick story. This happened to me personally, and this was some 10 years ago now. I'm on my way. This was like a Saturday early, late morning, early afternoon, right? I'm riding out to see a friend of mine, and this is about 11, 12 o'clock. Minding my business, and I'm on the highway. Get to my friend's house. Get to my friend's house, and she gets a knock on the door. Maybe like 5 minutes later, it's the police. So the police they ask us, is there anybody here that owns a gray Jeep Grand Cherokee? Yes, that was me at the time. I had a Jeep gray Jeep Grand Cherokee. So and me and my friend, we looking at each other. I'm like, and the policeman had two people with him. He had a white man and a white woman with him. And so I'm looking, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, I know I ain't did nothing, so I'm like, whatever. And I was like, yeah, I own a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and so the policeman asked the lady and the gentleman. He said, "Is this him?" And they were like, "Yeah." They were like, "Sir, can you step outside for a minute?" I'm like, "All right, cool." Step outside. He asked me, "Was I on Highway 97, which was the highway that's out here?" I was like, "Yeah, I was on 97, driving, and everything like that." I said, "Well, you were seen driving, whatever." And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so while I'm there, he was like, "Well, um, would you be willing to take a breathalyzer?" I said, "Sure. I don't drink. I'm not worried about it." Meanwhile, the two individuals that were there, they go and walk up the street, because she lives in an apartment complex. They walk up the street and around the corner. I'm paying attention to them. After he had finished asking them, was this the guy? And so what they leave, and he's there. He goes back to his car, and he's there for a minute. And I'm sitting, take the breathalyzer. Of course, nothing's on it, because I don't drink or whatever. So he comes back. He gave me 4 tickets. Gave me 4 tickets for, I don't even remember what they were. It was like reckless driving. It was a couple other things or whatever. And I didn't really know. I didn't know what it was. I was just like, it's crazy. But what I wound up having to do was, I would have gotten, I think, over 9 points. And anybody that's driving knows that, when you get, yeah, I'd have lost my license and everything else to go with it. So I wound up having to get an attorney, because I didn't want to represent myself in something like this and have to worry about the points and everything like that. So wound up going to get an attorney. She takes the case. She's adamant about it, because she was like you. She's a fighter like you. She's one of those folks that was, that really was fighting for people and stuff like that. I'm telling her this story, and she get mad. She get mad as I'm telling her the story and everything like that. Turns out that the two people that had called the police, they had literally called the police, had them come to that apartment complex, because they didn't know which one I'd gone into. The guy was a district attorney for the courts right out in the area called Glen Burnie. He was a district attorney out there. She was a district attorney in a little further down in Annapolis. For whatever reason, they happened to be driving on 97 or something like that. I was like, to this day, my friend, she asked me, she was like, did you do something to him or what? I was like, no, I didn't. I don't know these folks. I don't know who they are. So I wound up going to court. And I found out, like I said, that they're both district attorneys in different places, and I'm like, oh, this is some crazy stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. Go to court, fight it, and my attorney, the only thing I wound up having to do was pay the court cost. Didn't She had gotten my points taken off and everything like that. They bring the officer that had issued the tickets to me in court. He's there because he has to testify, or not testify, but if he hadn't showed up, then the case would have been dismissed automatically. But they bring the district attorney in, and this was the same courthouse that he works in. That ain't even. Here's the kicker too. The first judge that comes up was the supervisor to this district attorney. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So my attorney is like, the judge acknowledges that and says, I used to be his, supervisor. So, you have the choice of whether, you can have another judge do the case, or you can, or I can, we can just move forward. I was like, no. I'm not having him and his boss, ex-boss, do this case for me. So they wound up moving me over to another judge and everything like that. Judge goes and asks questions and brings him on board. He asks the district attorney when he's on the stand if he knows me, kind of what happened and stuff like that. And the guy says no, he doesn't know me. And the judge, after he testifies, says to me, well, you must have done something, you know, because he didn't, because he doesn't know you. I'm sitting there hot as I don't know what, because here I am sitting in this courthouse. I shouldn't even be there. And even the police officer says, I understand why he's upset. Because I shouldn't have been there. And I started to I started to go off on the judge, Letonya, which I know wasn't the right thing to do. But my attorney, she brought me back. I will say that she was really good. But I wound up starting to ask the judge this question. And after the case, I'll tell you what he said to my attorney. And I was going to ask the judge if this were anyone else, other than this district attorney who had called the police and said somebody did whatever on the road, that the police would come out, go to an apartment complex, find out who and where the car was without them seeing it. Because that was my thing. The police did not see. He didn't witness anything. So he's going off of their word, of what they said, that I did whatever they said, that I don't know what they said to him, that I did to them, whether it was cut them off or something, and they got pissed off about that or whatever. And so after the case, he winds up telling me, y'all giving me a fine, but not getting the points. And he tells, this is what he told the DA, he told the district attorney, I would not advise you to do this again. Calling the police on somebody that is just arbitrarily, out on the road and everything like that. I said, because my thing was, if that were the case, I could do it. I could go out here right now, somebody cut me off or do whatever. I could call the police, follow them, tell the police where they are, and then the police would be able to issue them tickets or whatever and everything like that without the officer being able to witness it and stuff like that. So he tells him, I wouldn't advise you to do this any longer. And then tells my attorney, counsel, you did an excellent job on the case. I was just so hot. But the importance of seeking counsel is vital when it comes to
so let me interject one thing. So let me tell you where everything went left. Mm-hmm. Right? When the officer came and said two things happened, right? One, it ain't your freaking business if anybody in this house drive anything. What do you want? Right? That would have saved you a lot of time. You never would have got the tickets, right? The second thing was step outside. No. See, he couldn't come in the house and get you.
Right.
No, people don't understand that.
Right.
People don't understand that. They can't come in your house. No, I'm not stepping outside. What is this about?
I got you. Yeah, and see,
right?
Like I said,
here's the thing. No. Right? I ain't coming outside. You got a warrant? Who are you looking for?
Right.
I mean, real talk. How are you going to walk up to a door and say, does anybody in here X? Well, then you don't even know who you're looking for.
Right, exactly. And they didn't.
Right?
They
so
didn't.
Let me tell you why that's important. Leroy, because we are conditioned as Black folks to believe that just merely being questioned by certain people, we have to answer it. You don't. Get away. Bye. Close the door.
Yeah. And see,
right?
And it's literally, that's something that never, I can be honest with you, Tony, that's something that never even entered my mind, was that I could say,
you know why?
I'm not
because you have been conditioned, we have been conditioned that when a police officer asks us something, we are to answer. Right? We are conditioned to do that. What I'm saying is, it's not about challenging, because a lot of people may say, remember what we said at the top of the hour. You just want to go home.
Right.
You know you hadn't did anything. I wouldn't have blown. What? Blow? Why would I blow? Because here's the thing. Do you know how common a Jeep Cherokee is in Maryland?
Yeah.
Right? Do you know? I bet you, food for thought, the make and model of your car. Google how many, right? Gray Jeep Wagoneer, Cherokees, whatever it is, right, are on the road in your area. Break it down in your county. Break it down in your city. Yeah, you ain't looking for me. I own it. No, I'm not coming outside. What do you want? Right?
And
Because
honestly,
here's
what I
the
was
thing.
thinking,
All she had to do was close the door.
Rev, and
You
see,
ain't got a warrant. You ain't coming in here. I mean, what you looking for?
and see, the thing is, honestly, the thing, what I was thinking was something that happened to my truck outside. I'm thinking somebody might have hit it. You know what I mean? Honestly, that's what I was thinking. I wasn't even thinking about that I, done something wrong
But
or
here's
whatever.
the thing. You never asked any questions.
Yeah,
From
exactly.
what you just described,
Yep.
you never asked any
I didn't.
questions.
Yep.
You just answered the questions and you complied. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not judging it. What I'm doing is I want to demonstrate for you when people say, how do folks find themselves in this situation?
Yeah.
Right? Think about what your friend said. What did you do?
Right.
Because
right.
her mind is, oh, something had to happen because they don't just do this. The reality is, yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do this stuff all the time,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so what I'm saying is, this is why it's important to have the conversation. Like the attorney that you mentioned, being on a nationally syndicated show like The Breakfast Club, there are a lot of listeners, but the demographic that are affected by things like what happened to you, things like what happened to these 5, young children with the Central Park jogger case, and so many things. Like these are the things that when my son is out, because he is an adult, I think about that. Like I've told him everything that I tell y'all. I started talking to my son about this when he was 11 years old.
Absolutely.
Right?
And see,
It
that's
did not.
important, though, too, that folks understand that you're not too young for them to have those conversations with.
Especially now, you better have that conversation, because guess what? People riding home with other kids. I mean, there are so many scenarios of, and we could talk about this all day. One that comes to mind, there was a black teenager was adopted by a white family. He was riding in the car with his grandmother. The grandmother was fussing at him, and I guess he was mouthing off. Somebody called the police and said that the woman had been carjacked by a black boy.
Oh, wow.
This woman, it's online. You can find it. This woman went berserk on this cop. Do you hear what I say? She went berserk on this cop because it was her grandson, right? And she's like, what are you talking about? I mean, she went berserk. What I'm saying is, this is the only defense you have is knowing your rights and invoking them. But that doesn't mean that you're going to go home. There's never a guarantee that you're going to go home, right? Look at Sandra Bland. That's what got her killed.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, she should have complied. Well, she was just trying to find out what the heck was going on.
Right. Exactly.
And they didn't like it. So it can be a catch-22. It's a very difficult situation, but I think it's just important to understand what your rights are, because I'm not handing you a case. It's just not going to happen.
Right. And I don't know if you heard about this yesterday and today about the Eric Garner case, about him, the policeman that choked and killed him. Yeah, he did not get, they dropped all
of
the...
yes. I heard about that.
And then, what's his name? Barr today is not even going to bring about a civil case against this police officer. I mean, so like you said, there's no guarantee that you're even going to go home, with it. Even when you do comply, because a lot of folks will say exactly what you just said. Well, all you got to do is comply. And even in the movie with the exonerated 5, the father says that to his son. The one father says that to his son. Tell them what they want to hear. And how important it is, like you said, for us to know our rights and to understand what we can do, so that we can go home, or so that we can have the counsel that we need, that can get us from out of, out of the precinct or whatever, from with under the thumb of the authority that we might be under at that particular time and everything like that, and how important that is, because it is. And like you just pointed out with me, my friend could have just simply shut the door. That's simple. Shut the door. Said no. Said no. I mean, and they could not have come in. Because, and honestly,
yeah, absolutely. If you say, do anybody in here drive a such and such? Why?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. Or no.
Right. And the truth be told, they couldn't even go get a warrant, because they don't know who she was. They don't know who I
But
am.
a warrant for what?
Right.
Exactly. A warrant for what? A moving violation?
Right. Exactly.
Alleged moving violation?
Right.
That was reported by a non-police officer? Get out of here. Absolutely not.
Right. So, so I mean, that's the last thing. Well, I do want to, before we move on to the other part that I wanted to talk about, the last point that I wanted us to talk about was the importance of life after, because that was one of the things that kind of stuck out to me. The lives of these young men after they got out of prison, and the life that they had to try and put back together, the pieces that they had to try and put back together, due to their lives being interrupted the way that they were, and taken from them, basically being taken from them, and how you're able to put the pieces back together. But even once you're out, what they need, what you kind of may need to do in order to be able to, because they were living the lives of convicted felons at the time, because they had that on their records, because they hadn't been either expunged or exonerated at the time yet. So they're trying to put their lives back together, and how they can go about doing that with a record. Now, as a ex-offender, once you've done your time, are there certain rights that you should have, or that you can get back? Make sure that you have put back, or that you have back once you have done your time, or once you do get out?
That's actually state specific.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So there are, some states that once you're, quote unquote, off papers, you get your driver's license back, you get your right to vote. Some states, it's only, it's according to the crime, right? So there are a whole host of crimes, for example, or class of crimes in Alabama that are never expunged. I don't care. They're never eligible to be expunged. I mean, if you are convicted of a crime that requires registration for life, right? Then, like registered sex offenders, typically those aren't going to be expungible. But there are other things, and now, with the strong domestic violence lobby, you can't get that expunged.
Oh, wow.
In certain states, it may not be everywhere, but in certain states it's like that. So that is really state specific. I will say there are lots of studies out there that talk about really the barriers to, they call it reentry, but it's really more about reintegration, right? How do you get back into, how can you come back into a society after being gone for 15 years? Think about what happened. Think about yourself, right? 1988, 1989, and 15 years later.
Right.
How different is the world?
Yeah.
Right? How different is the world?
Yeah.
The other thing too is, you got to think, when they went to prison, they were essentially children coming out as men. But when you're in prison, there's an emotional stunting that happens, right? So emotionally, you don't have a lot of emotional growth. And these are all things that the studies have found, that you're really there's really a delay. The longer you're institutionalized, the more of a delay that there is. There's a woman, I think I had mentioned her to you, Dr. Sandra Smith, who she is an ex-offender, but she also does lots of research in the area. And she created a term called trauma, which is really like the 3 areas of trauma as it relates to the life of a felon, right, or an offender. So you got the things that happened before that led up to whatever it was that happened, the different traumas and the things that happen while you're incarcerated, and then the reinforcement of that when you get out. And it's very interesting. You definitely should reach out to her and really have that in-depth conversation, because now she's doing a lot on a national level, right? That's getting a lot of national recognition. And you know, one, she has a firsthand account, right, with her own personal story. And these are a lot of the things that she talks about, you know, employment, housing, credit, right? If you didn't have a degree before then, now, depending on the type of crime that you had, you may be ineligible for any type of federal aid. So then how are you going to go to college? You know, so there are lots of barriers that are out there that I think really just continue to, I mean, re-victimize people.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the tough part about it, because I have a friend of mine, actually my best friend, and her brother is locked up, and one of the things that she constantly talks about is because he's kind of been in and out of prison and everything, but one of the things that she always harps on is about having like programs for those individuals that are coming out of the system and are trying to put their lives back together, because if not, they'll wind up right back in, which has been one of the things that's happened to him. You know, they go back to the same environment that they came from, so they're not able to change their mindset, one, but then two, change the environment so that they can change where it is, you know, that they're able to go in life and everything, and how important that is and stuff. So that's really important. And give the name of the lady one more time, so that people that are watching or will watch on the replay, they can actually look her up, and that may need, if they may need some information, they might be able to look her up, get her book or whatever information that she may have out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So her name is Dr. Sandra Smith. You can find her on Facebook. She wrote a book about it, and the name of her book is called Choices. So Dr. Sandra Smith, the name of her book is Choices. You can find her on Facebook. Mario Brown, who, you know, I do a show with.
Absolutely.
He actually works with people that are looking to reintegrate with their families. There are so many issues related to this, but he also does some great work in that area too. And his website is mariocbrown.org. I know that he does a free consultation, you know, for people that are looking at, you know, getting support, you know, on the, you know, spiritual and relationship side. So between the two of them, I would say that all bases are covered.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So holla at your boy Mario Brown, because that brother, he is excellent, excellent, excellent. So shout out to you, Mario. We'll tag him on this too, because
we got to tag Mario.
Yeah, tag him, because he is awesome. And talking, well, just mention that real quick about the show that you and him have, because that's a powerful show that you and Mario got going on, because y'all be bringing up some stuff and doing some things that folks need to be talking about. So tell people when they can see it, when you all are on, the name of the show, when people can view it, and then kind of some of the topics that y'all discuss on there.
Well, the name of the show is called Real Perspectives, and we do a live stream on Facebook on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. We are going to eventually be migrating over to YouTube, so I would encourage everyone, go over to YouTube, type in youtube.com/C/Real Perspectives TV, and you can subscribe, so that you'll know, you know, when we actually start going over to YouTube, which will probably be in about 30 days. I think I have to check the schedule, but we are live on Tuesday evenings. We just stream from my personal page, so it's Letonya.more5 on YouTube, and we talk about all sorts of stuff, but really just anything. Most of the topics, I have to say, come from people like you that will send in topics for us to discuss and be a part of the conversation. But our goal with Real Perspectives is really to talk about things that people are afraid to talk about.
Yeah,
and to just open up a dialogue and a safe space for people to have the conversations that they otherwise may be apprehensive about having.
Absolutely. It's no cotton. That's no cotton candy. Copycat cotton candy topics on Real Perspectives. I'm telling you.
Absolutely not. It's definitely
Hey,
a real talk advisory.
you know what I'm saying? So if y'all get the opportunity on Tuesdays, or even because it does like a replay as well too. They watch the
Yeah, they
replay
can go
too.
to the Real Perspectives TV show page, like
Mm.
the page, because we do make sure that we post all the replays on the TV page.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they have some great topics and just some great discussions on that and everything. So I'm going to shift a little bit, and I'll do it like this, because we were just talking about those who are who maybe have transitioned out of from being incarcerated and everything. A lot of individuals who have previously been incarcerated and everything like that. We talked about the difficulty with them being able to find employment like that, but there are some who are looking to or may look to become entrepreneurs. And so I want to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship from, I guess, their perspective, because you talked a little bit, you mentioned it a little bit about there are certain rights that they may not have or be able to do, or licenses that they might not be able to get to, being an ex-offender and everything like that. And so if you can talk a little bit about that, I guess what hindrances there might be as an for those that may want to be entrepreneurs, and then we'll go into the full entrepreneurship, and we'll talk about the movie that I mentioned to you, the founder, and the story of the McDonald's story, and how important it is for entrepreneurs to be able to know their rights too, and what they can do, what they should do to be able to protect themselves, protect their brands, because you are the brand protector. So 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 I know you'll talk a little bit about that. But how important is it for ex-offenders when they for those that may be interested in becoming entrepreneurs to be able to know, I guess, what their rights are and what they can do and can't do as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, and see, a lot of those things again are state specific.
Right, right.
So, like anything that requires a state license,
Mm,
you got to make sure that if you do have a felony, right, that you are eligible for that license, because otherwise you won't be. You won't be. Now, let me say this, and this is something that people never think about.
mm,
Let's say, for example, that, when you were trained as a barber, I don't
mm,
know, while you were in prison. So you want to
mm.
come out, you want to go through the process, you want to get a certification, but your state says no. That doesn't mean you can't own a barbershop.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
That doesn't mean that you can't own a barbershop. That doesn't mean that you can't create a certain, cutting technique,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
What I'm saying is what's the old saying, right? They give you lemons, give them lemonade. Like
Hmm.
it's not the end all be all,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't mean that you can't create some type of, everybody want a beard, right? Everybody on the beard game, right? Now they buying beards and attaching them. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, get you a beard, bruh, right? For real. Get you a beard. But what I'm saying is, if you're not eligible for the license, it still does not mean that you can't be a part of the business,
Absolutely, absolutely.
right? You just find you some people, right? Rent your booth, collect your money, cut your little boy hair, right? You can't cut people's hair in the shop,
Hmm.
but find a workaround, right? You don't have to resort to something menial just because you have a record. You have to
Mm.
ask yourself, okay, well, I can't be licensed to be a barber. What can I do? Because this is my passion. Open up a
Hmm.
barbershop. Because just because you can't do the work doesn't mean, or don't do the work doesn't mean that you can't own the shop. Because trust me, Bill Gates hadn't worked at Microsoft in a long time, but he's the richest man.
Absolutely.
You
Come
got to
on
think
now.
about that, right? You got to think about that. And that frees up your time to do other things, spend time with your children, and you're still collecting your money.
Absolutely. Now, being an ex-offender doesn't hinder you from starting an LLC, does it, or a corporation, right?
No,
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. So you can, like you
not
said,
that I know of. I mean, you can
right.
check your own state, but not that I know of.
Right, right. So understand that, like she said an important thing. You don't have to be the one cutting hair, because you can actually own the shop that people cut hair in, and be and make even more money than just being the one that cuts the hair.
Right,
You know.
absolutely. Absolutely. You have to think about that. And I mean, that's with any profession,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That they're saying to you, well, you can't get a license to do, because if you have been trained, you know enough about the trade, you could start a school to teach
Hmm.
people the technique,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? You don't have to cut hair. So what I'm saying is, utilize your knowledge, utilize what you have up here,
Hmm.
right, to make you money. Because at the end of the day, this is my firm belief, and I tell people, whether you're Christian or not, read the Old Testament if you want to
Hmm.
know about prosperity and making money,
Hmm.
right? But one of the things that it does say in the Old Testament is that God gives you the power to get wealth,
Come on now.
right? Where does the
Absolutely.
power? Well, how does he give you that? Is in your brain, right? You don't just
Absolutely.
you'll just do it, right? And that's why I always say that the power to get wealth, right? It lies inside of you.
Hmm.
Nothing exterior can stop that power within you unless you allow it to. I think it's very important for people to understand that, right? You have to unleash your power. Don't just sit around and say, man, I was locked up, so now I can't do this. Okay, well, you may not be able to do this, but what about that? What
Hmm.
is the that? What can you do, right, to get you to that next level, so you don't have to think about, well, maybe I should go back to the streets. So
Hmm.
I think it's really a mindset challenge.
Yeah.
And so I just want to challenge anyone in that position to really then think about what you can do. Think outside the box.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about the movie that I was talking about, The Founders, because it was such a fascinating movie. And for those that aren't familiar with this movie, it's called The Founder, and it's the movie and the story of Ray Kroc, who is kind of known for being the franchisee, or the kind of creator of the franchise of McDonald's. But many people don't know about the McDonald's brothers, who were the original individuals that started the McDonald's company. They had a restaurant out in California, I believe it was, and Ray Kroc, who was a milkshake salesman, a milkshake salesman, happens to see their operation, sees that it was had all these people coming in, and he couldn't believe that he got it. He went there to get a sandwich and a soda, and it came to him under 30 seconds. So it kind of piqued his mind about, wow, how am I getting a burger and a sandwich in under 30, in 30 seconds. And so he drums up the conversation with the McDonald's brothers, trying to find out about them, but winds up in this partnership with them, with their restaurant. And he winds up wanting to grow it beyond what they wanted to grow it. And he does an underhanded way of doing this. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the story, you got to go rent the movie to see what I'm talking about.
Well,
Because
you got to give them a little bit more
you think so?
information, because that movie isn't always easy to locate because it's old.
Mm.
So tell them a little bit, give them a little bit more about the background of what happened.
Well, what happened was, like I mentioned, Ray Kroc gets into a business deal. He talks to the McDonald's brothers, and at first he wasn't. They were hesitant about getting into the deal with him, but he convinces them. They get into a partnership with him. He comes in, and he pretty much he's like their pitch man. He's their salesman. He goes out and he starts to bring in business for them. It starts to grow, and he had Ray Kroc. I'll give him it. He was a salesman, and he started thinking beyond the one restaurant that they had. So he gets them to the point where the business is booming, is starting to grow, and he starts to talk about them franchising, them having stores in other places. And they were hesitant about doing it because they had been done wrong in business prior to him. So they really didn't want to do it. They were comfortable with being where they were, being who they were, living this, this quiet life and everything like that. But Ray Kroc saw the bigger vision of it. And I'll give him that. McDonald's would not be what it is today without him doing what he did. As underhanded as it was, it still would not be the McDonald's that you see now. So he was in a lot of financial difficulty. He was in a lot of financial, had some financial problems and debt and everything like that. And he's in the bank one day, and this a lawyer happens to overhear him talking to the banker, and he approaches Ray Kroc outside of the bank, and he starts to talk with him about it. And he tells Ray Kroc a way of, what he should be doing. And he said something that I thought was really, really, that kind of, I think probably was the key that opened up the door to Ray Kroc. He's told Ray Kroc, you're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business. And I think that was the thing, was like, okay, now you got my attention. And he starts to tell Ray Kroc, here's how you can, you can get to where you want to get with the business that you have. And you can start to make even more money. You can make more money outside of what you already have with the McDonald's brothers. So that's the gist of how they began. And once he starts to once he sits down with this attorney and they start to talk about what they can do and how they go about moving and buying land and using the land to be able to make the money off of the other franchises that they start, it became
right.
a whole new ball game. And
right. And they essentially stole it by owning all the property.
Exactly.
Right. So what we have to think about is that's no different from any other property that we have, right? Mm-hmm. They had an excellent concept with a very small vision. Right. So you had someone with a larger vision, right? You got to think Ray Kroc was a traveling salesman. So he understood the market, right? He understood the market, but he was also in food service, which means he also understood the value of being able to provide quick service in a quality manner.
Right. I like
so
that.
What am I saying?
In a quality manner.
Right, because think about it. What I'm saying is the person with the means and the know-how oftentimes can see beyond the doer. I've said this several times, and I can't take credit for this because I heard somebody else say this, and then I said, okay, I'm about to start telling people about this. In business, you have finders, minders, and grinders. The McDonald's brothers are grinders, right? That means they just in there, they're doing the work, they just making sure that the hamburgers go out the way that it's supposed to go out. Right. Your minders are the people that make sure the business is running efficiently and that the business has everything that it needs. So remember, the grinder gets the work done. The minder makes sure that things are done efficiently, meaning deadlines are met and things of that nature, taxes are paid, so on and so forth. But your finder is the person that brings in the business. They're the figurehead. They're the face. They're the ones with all the connections, right? They are going to be the person with the quote unquote clout, right? But they're also going to be very instrumental in creating the reputation for the brand.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because they have what's called the woo, right? They can bring people in, they can woo them, and they can do that. And so when you have a team where you have all three, that is the recipe for success. Because you got somebody that's bringing in the business, you got somebody that's making sure the bills are paid and the taxes are paid, but you also have someone that's making sure that the work is being done in a quality manner, right? And so all the Kroc brothers wanted to do was make hamburgers.
Right.
That's all they wanted to do. So you got, I'm sorry, the McDonald's brothers, but you got, Ray Kroc coming in like, hey, Okay, well, let's just do the same thing over here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry
Mm-hmm.
about the real estate, because I got the real estate, right? Any of you that have a brick and mortar, and some of you, if you watch any of my videos, you probably heard me say, beware of renting for long
Mm-hmm.
term. Because
Mm-hmm.
once you start making money, that rent gonna go up.
Absolutely.
Right? And it'll go up to the point that it'll price you out and you no longer can afford it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
by then you've built up the property, right? By then you've increased the property probably triple, quadruple in value.
Mm-hmm.
These are the types of things that happen. And so part of the reason why the McDonald brothers couldn't protect themselves is because it was never their vision.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Right? You can't protect yourself when the vision isn't yours because you don't know what's going on. You have no
Right.
idea what's happening.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so that's why when you take on investors, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of people now are doing crowd funds because they want the money, but they don't want you to have really no say so
No say
in
so.
the
Right.
business. Right?
Absolutely.
But they need the money. Because think about it, the typical angel investor, they want control.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that if they're giving you $5 million and you're promising them a 10% return or a 20% return, that's pretty high, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. 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 Right.
But you're promising them a return. They want to make sure that they have some say so in the way that the brand is going. And so, as far as the movie goes, I think part of the challenge is because this was never their vision.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's
Which is why it
right.
was so easy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because if they had, even if it wasn't what they wanted to do, my thing has always been they should have seen kind of where he was trying to go with different things. Here you have somebody that is kind of like I mean, they were partners. They were partners in what they were doing. He wanted to go one way. They didn't want to go another way, but he kept pushing them to want to do a certain thing. And certain things kept happening that should have sent up red flags. It's like, hey, we kind of need to talk to somebody about this to make sure, our butts are covered so that something can't happen. And they thought that they had an ironclad. I think they thought that they had an ironclad contract or agreement with a partnership agreement and everything like that. When in actuality, I guess the agreement that they had was, but they weren't thinking in terms of like the attorney that Ray Kroc had showed him, hey, don't worry about the contract that you got with him. We'll buy the land. We'll bring the folks to that want to put a business on the land, and we control it that way. And I
Absolutely.
Never, and he the I think it was Ray Kroc or his attorney said this to the no, it was Ray Kroc said this to the McDonald's brothers. He said, "You all own everything in the building. I own everything outside of the building." And I was like, "Whoa."
Now think about that. Now here's the thing. To somebody whose vision is to create the hamburgers, they thought it was a sweet deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because their thought process is, well, hey, we're really making this. We're the reason that this is going. And you got to understand the value of real estate. Like, there are so many technical things about real estate that people do not understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One of the things is like that. So a lot of these like buildings, for example, you'll see a big complex, right? Will build to suit. Right? It's the same concept like what you're talking about. You don't own that land, even if you own the building.
Yep.
I know people that have 99-year leases with companies that came in and developed their land. Now, this might be a person that, 30, 40 years old. Their family has this 99-year lease. So they've set their family up for generations off this 99-year lease.
Yep.
Right? Guess what? Those of you that are in subdivisions with HOAs, you do not own the land, people, under your property. You own the house. Right? You own the house. And that is why if you do not pay your HOAs, they can foreclose on your home.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right? Everybody want
Absolutely.
HOAs because they don't want nobody next door with the cars jacked up, right? Or you don't want nobody to paint their house pink. But understand, if you fall on hard times and you can't pay that $225, $400, $500 a month, you can lose your house because they will foreclose on that home and sell it to get their money back.
Yep. Yep. And it's the same way with the taxes, right?
Same way with the taxes, but the difference is the IRS typically is not going to foreclose.
Right. But they'll just put a lien. They'll put Yep.
You take your little stuff on the inside and find you somewhere else to go.
Absolutely.
And figure out what you gonna do. And here's the thing: in almost all of those, any improvements that you make to the land now belongs to the landowner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how that goes. But there's so many different topics we could talk about. I know we don't have time to do it today. With regard to that, that is, of course, one of my pet peeves is people being taken advantage of because they don't understand.
Absolutely.
This is why I say don't try to go at your own. I know it's legal this and legal that, right? You watch all the judge shows, so you're expert. But at the end of the day, any deal that you're going into, at a minimum, at least pay for an hour of an attorney's time. An attorney in your area to have a conversation with you about what to do next. Let them review your contract. Yeah, it may cost you a few $100s, but would you rather spend a few $100s now or lose everything later? And that's a real possibility, by not taking those steps, right? So I would just encourage everybody to just be vigilant, know your rights, and understand that you do have rights, right? And understand that if there's something that you don't understand, now this is something Warren Buffett always says, when you're going into an investment and you don't understand the terms and you have no idea what's going on, don't put your money there. That's real simple. And if the person bringing the deal with you can't explain it to you in a way that you can understand and verify, that's the other part. Understand and verify. Right? If you can both understand and verify and you feel like it's a good deal, then take the risk. But if not, you can always walk away because you're always in control of your destiny.
Absolutely. And I mean, that is so key. Now, I want to ask you, because you talked a little bit about having a team, but how important is it, as you mentioned those three things, finders, grinders, and minders. How important is it for an individual to understand which one they are? Am I a finder? Am I a grinder? Or am I a minder? How important is it for them to understand that?
Well, when you understand that, then you understand where your weaknesses lie. And also where your strengths are, right? Now, most entrepreneurs that listen to that, they're going to say, well, I'm all of those. No, you're not. You do them all because you ain't got nobody else, right? But you're not all of them. Like, one of the things that I realized, because it go like there's a little bit of everything in all of us. Right. Like, I realized that for me, I'll use myself as an example. My high, which means what I would say I'm best at, is finder. I'm a networker. I know everybody under the sun. I'm connected to a lot of people. 9 times out of 10, if you say, well, Letonya, do you know somebody that does X? If I don't, I can call somebody because they know somebody.
Right.
Right? So I realized that the finder is way up there. So I'm a finder, minder, grinder. It's not that work doesn't get done because I do work. But when I think about my big strength is bringing in business, right? My big strength is, my secondary strength, of course, is oversight, large
Mm-hmm.
scale oversight, which is the minder. And then at the end of the day, getting the work done and doing the work, that's the third level, or the secondary level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just understanding those things about you, like on most days, right? Like right after tax season, the grinder has to come up. Why? Because everybody's getting their letters that they owe all this money. So the grinder has to step up
Mm-hmm.
and handle business. When I was a litigator, Leroy, the grinder was off the chain, right? Because she was the person that was grinding it out, right? Putting the case together, to interviewing witnesses,
Uh-huh.
all of those things. So at every stage as an entrepreneur, some of those things are going to rise, right? Because you got to do what you got to do. But understanding your 1, 2, and 3 and how that fits, then you'll realize what your strength is, what your primary strength is, and what your secondary strength is,
Mm.
and what do you need, right? If you're a finder like me, you might need to associate yourself with a grinder,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
have somebody that I work with, and we were having this conversation, and he said to me, well, you already know what I am. He said, finder ain't even on the list. I don't want nobody calling me. I don't want to be in front of nobody. I don't want to be in no speaking engagement. Letonya, just bring in the business and we're going to make this money, right? And it was hilarious because he's right. He's a
Mm-hmm.
grinder, minder. Finder ain't on the list, but we got to put it on there. And it's
Right.
way down there, like you can't
Yeah.
even see it. It's off his page. That's not what he's interested in.
Right.
That's not what he does,
Right.
and it's fine.
Right.
Right? But it works for us because he's also a high level subject matter expert.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So I say all that to say your grinders tend to be, they tend to have a high level expertise in their area,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just being knowledgeable, but they probably are authorities on the things that they work on because that's all they do.
The do. Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's key. And when you were talking about that, you made me think about the book, and people talk about their love language, what's your love language, and
Yep.
understanding what it is that you do, or that you need the most, or that you do the most. This is that same thing. Understanding, yeah, I may be the three things, but I know this is the one that's high on the list versus the other, the other two that I know kind of take a second and third ring, to the other, to the one that I know this is for sure who I am, and being able to say, okay, this is who I am, so I know that I can surround myself with those other folks who will be able to, to be able to accentuate
Sorry, I
those
had a
other two, aspects that I.
call come in.
No, that's okay. Those other two aspects that I know I'm not really keen on. Like you said, your business associate, he knows he's not a finder. So I don't even have to worry about when it comes to that, because I know that that's not me. I know what my lane is. I'm going to stay right in my lane, what it is that I do. I know what I do. I do it well. And like you said, I've even become beyond an expert at what it is that I do, because I know this is all I do. I do it every day, all day, 24/7. I can do it in my sleep. That type of thing, and that type of understanding with it. And it's I think it's key that people understand, what you do well. If you do it well, and admit it. Don't be ashamed to say, no, that's not what I do. That's not what I do. I can't do this. I may know some people that do it, like you said. I know folks who do that, but that's not what I do. I think some entrepreneurs, they make the mistake sometimes of thinking that they can do everything, or that they have to do everything, when in actuality you don't have to do everything. If you have the right partnerships, if you have the right collaborations, and if you are around the right people, then you can be successful at it without having to really do it. So I think that that's important. You made a very important point for people, for entrepreneurs, to understand about themselves. That, look, you gotta be real, keep it honest with yourself, and know what it is. Because if not, then you'll wind up, trying to do something that you can't do, or shouldn't be doing, and messing up your brand because of it. you know. So I think that that's in, that's important. So I think and I'm not going to keep you. I don't want to keep you because I know you on the road, like I said. So um, let's do this. I want to give you the opportunity to be able to give the last word, talk about, just kind of capsulize and summarize what we talked about. But then I want you to also give your information because you're an international speaker. You are about to be and you're about to join the entrepreneur club and everything.
Okay.
And things like that. But I just want you to just talk a little bit about, like I said, what we talked about, the importance of what we talked about, the personal rights that we have, the professional rights that we have, and how important it is to understand the rights. You don't have to know everything, but understand the importance of understanding what it is that you do and being able to ask the right questions and everything like that, and then finish it off by just talking about you and all of that, all the good things you got going on.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for, again, sharing your platform. I really appreciate it. If I were to say anything as a last thought, it's really take the time to know and understand your rights as an individual and as a business owner. One of the things that I always say is any professional that you hire, they're working for you.
Mm.
And we have that similar thought process, like I mentioned earlier, with, the scenario with the police officer that you
Mm-hmm.
presented.
Right.
We don't ask our lawyer questions,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't challenge the things that they say,
Mm-hmm.
right? We just
Right.
accept it because we say, well, they're the expert, right? But this is your brand, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
in a police environment, this is your freedom.
Yep.
So you must understand that they should be able to talk to you and communicate with you in a way that you understand what the heck they're talking about.
Right.
If they can't do that, you have a couple of options. Find somebody else or continue to ask questions until they help you understand. Right? So one of the things, Leroy, I mentioned that because one of the things that since you mentioned the entrepreneur, I am writing a book. It's
Mm-hmm.
called How to Stop Brand Stealing Thieves. Actually, the manuscript is done. The book has gone through beta readers, has really, really great reviews. We are going to be doing a pre-release very, very soon. So you may see some things about it. Um, but what this book is, it is really geared towards entrepreneurs and people that are interested in being business owners. And like I mentioned before, literally one chapter in the book, I will share this, a little bit of a spoiler alert. But I talk about something called the Bell team. And it's the banker or your money person, your accountant, your insurance professional, and your lawyer. And in the book,
Absolutely.
I literally lay out when you call them, these are the questions that you ask.
Wow.
That's why it's
Wow.
called the playbook, right? It's really
Mm-hmm.
a playbook for not just startups, but for professionals that's
Mm-hmm.
looking at going to that next level. You want to make sure that you got the right person on your team. And so I
Absolutely.
talk about what are the essential things that your attorney needs to know, your accountant needs to know, the type of information that your insurance professional should have, right? I don't take everybody because guess what? I'm not all knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know everything, even about brand protection. There are a host of other attorneys, CPAs, CFEs, which are certified fraud people. Like I have a vast network of people that I deal with because I don't know everything. And so I want to make sure that I have resources at my disposal that can help my clients out of just about anything. So that's one of the things that I definitely want to share with you guys, that the book is going to be coming out. It's set to be released mid-September, but starting early August, we are going to be doing a pre-release. I'm very excited about that.
Cool.
You can find out more about me and my business and what I do at www.iprotectyourbrand.com. You can like the
Absolutely.
Facebook page. And you can also join the 360 Brand Protection Facebook group.
Absolutely, absolutely. She has some just great. The 360 Brand Protection Group has just some phenomenal information, knowledge, and resources that it shares on its page. So if you go onto Facebook, you certainly want to. That's one of the groups that you want to be a part of. Letonya is great about sharing information, and one of the things that I love about you, and I tell you, is you're one of those folks that is not afraid to share information. You have so many folks that they feel as if that they either can't share it, or they say that they don't want to share it because, oh, I don't want to give away stuff or anything like that. So I appreciate you for being the advocate that you are for people, and having a passion for making sure that people, it's about, I did this thing today, it's about the impact that you have on people, as opposed to the money aspect of it. Because I've always said, if you chase the impact, if you chase the impact, not the money. Don't chase the money, chase the impact. Because if you chase money, you'll lose every time. I've always said that
Mm-hmm.
you will lose every time. But if you chase the impact, trust me, the money will chase you. So folks like you who what I call chasing the impact that you have on people's lives, it brings in everything else that you do, where people see that, wow, this young lady, you know she's about protecting me. She's not somebody that is just out to make a quick buck off of me. She's somebody that is going to take care of me, and so I want to in turn take care of her and make sure that she gets paid our just due. And I'll say that folks like you need to get paid, because you're real about it. You want to make sure
Oh,
that,
I appreciate that.
you know what I'm
Thank you
saying?
very much.
That they do get paid for what you do, because I believe that what we bring to the table, and we can't be afraid to pay people what they're worth, and not always looking for the hookup and the the hookup and the discount and everything like that. No, it's not always about that. When somebody gives you genuine information, like you just spent over an hour here with me. Do you know how much that would cost if I would have sitting it, if we were sitting in your office?
Yes, I
So
do. Yes, I
yeah,
do.
I know you do. I know you know them numbers. but
I
see,
know. I know.
so those are the things that that turn around and say, you know what, Leroy, do you know an attorney? When folks say, yeah, you know what, you need to talk to Letonya. You need to hire her as your attorney. She gonna make sure you get what you're supposed to get. She gonna make sure you protected the way that you are supposed to be protected, and you'll sleep a lot better at night, knowing that Letonya has made sure that you're protected with your business and your personal brand. Trust me.
Oh, I
So
appreciate that.
you
Thank you
know,
very much.
so absolutely. So let's give your website or your information one more time, so that folks can be able to reach out to you if they need your services and everything like that. And then also one more time for your show, so people can tune in to the show on Tuesday evenings as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the show is called Real Perspectives TV, TV show, and I host that, co-host that with Mario C. Brown, so you guys can check him out. You can contact me through my website, www.iprotectyourbrand.com. That's iprotectyourbrand.com, and from there you can connect with me on pretty much every social media outlet there is.
Absolutely. And subscribe to that YouTube channel. I'm telling you,
Yes,
subscribe to that
absolutely.
YouTube channel. I'm big on that
Yes,
too.
thank you.
I'm big on that. That the YouTube thing is, trust me, it's where people are moving to. So that's a big move with you and Mario. So I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule for joining me this evening and everything like that. And I hope that folks got something out of this. I hope they got some great knowledge, some great information and resources. Because as I tell people, the thing that I'm about is about enlightening, empowering, and impacting you. That's to teach you something something, equip you with something, and impact you to do something. So hopefully we've done those three things with you this evening. So I want to thank y'all for joining us. Letonya, thank you for joining me. I want you to have a safe trip to where you're going. I know you're rolling.
Yes, I'm not far.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
not far. So, I'm going to grab me something to eat and get to
Okay.
my destination and relax.
Good, good, good. Absolutely. You do that. All right. And I will be talking with you, and you have a good night, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All
Bye,
right. Thanks a lot.
everybody.
All right.